Okay.
Okay.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay.
Hello.
What is happening? dude, I miss hanging out with you every day, man.
I know.
Okay. Number one topic today.
Okay.
It's, you know, by your choice.
Yeah.
I mean, voluntold choice.
Yeah. Very voluntold.
Hey man, let's talk DEI.
We're not allowed to.
Oh, that's right. Ooh. What happened again? Ooh. Yo, let's
We're not allowed to talk about that anymore.
hey, let's have some fun, man. So this show, as for those who know me, man, I'm not political, but I appreciate politics. I appreciate the democracy that we have and the opportunities that we get to talk about topics like this because they impact our workflows, they impact our lives, our kids.
Mhm.
And so, man, I just want to give everyone a little bit of context around DEI. For those of you who've been sitting in a box for some reason and haven't liked and subscribed yet and have no idea what's going on in the world, President Trump in January, he dropped several executive orders. I mean, right out the gate, right when Black History Month is about to hit,
Mm.
he decides to drop, and I kid you not, the first one was ending racial and wasteful government DEI programs and preferencing. That's the name of the executive order. All right. And that was mandated DEI related initiatives across all federal agencies, basically eliminating a lot of those programming. I had a lot of friends lose jobs because of that. Next thing that he did was an executive order. It was called Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit Based Opportunity. Right. This was all about employment discrimination. This was, I think, 1965. There was a executive order that was made that basically said you can't discriminate on the basis of race, right?
Mhm.
And this is what we would maybe consider more of the affirmative action based one that ensured equal employment opportunities. You're about to say something. Go ahead.
I wasn't gonna say anything. I was listening. It was like church. I was just agreeing.
mm,
Mm.
the deacon.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
preaching, preacher. I
Yeah.
haven't even said that.
Yeah. I was just listening.
I was
I was
listening.
just listening.
Psst. Like and subscribe.
Dude, I know I wanted to talk about this and I've been waiting to have this conversation for a while.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think about which one of my friends made the most sense.
Mhm.
Because I try to make the shows tailored to my relationships.
Yeah.
And I feel like as an educator,
Mhm.
this one probably was a lot more relevant.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just kind of maybe wanted to start by hearing what how do you see this sort of impacting the space in and around education?
I can definitely say like I think about like so much. Like it's interesting because though he put that executive order in, I see schools still trying
Yeah.
to like make sure people do feel included.
Yeah.
Um recently my son's school is doing like a multicultural night and they want it there like if you would like to participate, here's a list of things that you can do, whether it's music or food or like art. Please, bring it. And we would love to like display it and, have a night where, we can talk about those things. And I think that it's interesting because I think this is the first time we've ever done something like this. And it almost feels like in the midst of it all, like, is that why you're doing it? Like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Um, But I also have like my feels with that too,
Yeah.
in the sense of like, mm, you want me to display things so people can walk around and look
Yeah.
like,
It's
I don't
weird.
know.
It's weird. I think we got to name the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have to name the thing when it comes to DEI programming.
Yeah.
We want things to be wider,
Mm-hmm.
and the cultural stuff we want to be able to bring on stage when it's convenient.
Right. Right. Exactly.
That and I think this has been my biggest issue when it comes to this issue, it's been when you say make America great again,
Mhm.
what are we really talking about?
Right.
Right? And if we're being brutally honest, are we talking about assimilation,
Right.
which is people who are non-white?
Mm-hmm.
Are you assimilating into white culture,
Right.
which is American culture? Or is it man, do we really truly want to be a melting pot
Right.
where diversity is something that is a hallmark of who we are fundamentally as an American people?
Right.
And that just isn't something displayed. You're dealing with real life.
Yeah.
Dealing with real culture. You're dealing with real people experiences that are value and valuable. And so for me, it's this tension between Black History Month
Mm-hmm.
and what does it look like to every single day
Yeah.
value Black history in America
Right.
and the impact of Black people within the society, right? There's Asian History Month, Native History Month, right? But again, I feel like the language in and of itself is it's tailor made to isolate
Yeah.
than to unite. But I think even in the idea of what I would argue, I have huge friends who are Trump supporters,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? They would say this is good because we shouldn't have these buckets. We shouldn't have a Black History Month. We shouldn't have a Women's History Month. We shouldn't have an Asian History Month. We shouldn't have a Native History Month,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when we are failing to tell the full history,
Right. Then why? Right. You're not always like honoring and respecting, I mean, how this country was really built.
yeah. Even the way that you were talking about that dynasty,
Yeah.
it was weird. Like it's almost cringe where it's
Yeah.
if you want to experience a multicultural, you can't. But again, I think this is one of my biggest issues with DEI
Yeah.
in terms of the executive orders and what it assumes. We don't assume white culture in any of these conversations. We don't assume it.
No.
We can't actually look and name, oh, like that's white culture.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So when we think about this, when you have this kids situation and it's this potluck of different cultural experiences, if we really want to be equitable, we got to start naming white culture for what it is.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting to have a multicultural night, but your staff doesn't represent that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't think that I've seen one person of color
Yeah.
at their school.
Yeah.
And I know that there are Black and brown, Indian, Asian, Hispanic kids that go there, and they don't see anybody that looks like themselves at all.
Right.
And it's
Well, there's
tough.
been a lot of debate about that too, because one of the things that is really hotly debated is people of color in education becoming educators, right? Like wanting to see more of that. But I know in the area that y'all live in St. Charles is predominantly white.
Mhm.
And so when we think about the types of kids in the public school system, I don't know, I can't fault Betty Lou for wanting to be a teacher. But I think there is still an approach, right? There's a way to honor and live equitably. I think this is one of the reasons why, again, like I love being Christian, is because Christ never said assimilate to a race.
Mhm.
He always, our culture, he always said kingdom culture is first, and it's in kingdom culture that all cultures can thrive,
Yep.
that all ethnicities can thrive as they exist, who they are. And I think this is the thing that bothers me the most about DAI or whatever you want to say in terms of what's happening here is it's assuming that the heart is just and that people people are thinking about others in a way that's equitable inherently.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is, no.
At all. No. It's crazy.
It's bonkers. It's bonkers. There's what is it? There's a what is it? I think I don't know if it's Utah or California, but it was talking about um the movement around books. I know I was also in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
getting rid of certain books within the curriculum because they're too DEI. I know there's a lot of things that are rewriting. Texas, which is the number one writer of history books, they're coming out with new curriculum around history, literature, and as it pertains to DEI and even the Civil War.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about slavery. It was about economics, which slaves are economics. Right? Like it's this recoding and rewriting of history to it's like taking a brown fence and just layering it with white paint and just relayering it with white paint every year. Right? Like, because again, the irony of it all is if we are teaching full history, we gotta teach it for what it was and how it exists. But if we're not teaching it in a way that fundamentally tells the truth,
Yeah.
then again, it just reaffirms. It reaffirms. I don't know how else to put this. I'm gonna put it this way. I think we do a disservice not just to Black kids or Asian kids who want to see themselves in curriculum, but I think we do a disservice to white kids.
Yeah.
I think we do a disservice to kids who aren't going to be able to see equitably the history of America and what it means to be America. It's why I think the Langston Hughes poem has so much weight in today's society. I too am America. It's because it's almost as if there's a constant fight as a Black man, and shoot, man, as an Asian woman,
Yeah.
to just be included in literally the history books.
Yeah. I think that something that I learned a long time ago was I'm first generation. My parents came here from Cambodia. And I remember there was a genocide there, right? Like 1 million people died. Um, and I remember like looking at it and it was like in different states, it depended on like where I was, but in like Virginia, at least they had like a full page about it, right? Like this is what happened, why did it happen? Communism, the genocide. And then it's like as I moved along in education and I would ask kids like, "Oh, did you guys learn about the Khmer Rouge?" And they were like, "No." They're like, "Where is Cambodia?"
Jeez.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
Right. Okay, cool, 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 cool. So like to see that it was, when I was growing up, like one full page of my history book to now being like one sentence
Wow.
is crazy.
Jeez.
So there's definitely change. And I think that kids should know about it.
Man.
And it's, I think it's sad to see
Yeah.
because now at this point, people are like, where is Cambodia? Is that like in the Middle East? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That reminds me, I think there was a survey, and I'm not going to quote the stats because I don't think that that's fair. I don't know them off the top of my head. But it was interviewing people from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they were asking them, did they know about Black Wall Street and what happened at Black Wall Street with the U.S. Army bombing
Right.
a predominantly Black community.
They had no idea.
No idea. And we're talking within 2 generations. So when I think about DEI programming and exactly what you're saying, if we aren't critically, I don't know how so, man, if we, it doesn't take long, man. I want to put it this way: our minds are hardwired to make things easier.
Yeah.
And it takes so much work to do things the right way.
Yeah.
And there's something about being human that's okay.
Right.
Right. But when it comes to equity, when it comes to valuing others in a way that is learning, knowing, and honoring the history.
Mm-hmm.
If it takes teachers more work to teach that every year,
Yeah.
to try to make sure we don't mess up the language here and get in trouble in this way because the laws now say this, and I'm not trying to be this way and that
Right.
way, it just becomes easier to teach from the book.
Yeah.
And then there's a generation of teachers who are going to be raised as history teachers. This is all that they've known how to
Right.
teach.
Right.
And so within 2 generations,
Yeah. I mean, it all just kind of disappears.
it just disappears. Right?
Yeah.
It's rewritten the way that you want it to be written.
That's why you need to keep fighting, keep asking questions, keep learning, keep reading.
Yeah. Do you feel like in your home, that's like, are you teaching your kids about your history?
Yes. Sherman has been really, really great about making sure that the kids are like learning about the Cambodian culture. And, there are still things that like Lee and Nick, when they come over, they love talking to my mom about like, what was it like, living in Cambodia, before the genocide, and what was it like afterward?
Mm,
What was it like living in like those like refugee camps?
right.
And the kids are around and things like that. And I mean, for a while, Mackenzie, because she's so little, she didn't know, but like at some point, what was it, like at 3 or 4, I was like speaking Cambodian to her, and she was like, "I don't understand Spanish. Stop speaking Spanish to me." And I was
Spanish.
like,
Hey, yo.
"Girl, this is Khmer, but okay." I was like, "I'm not Spanish. I'm not Hispanic. I'm not Latina." I was like, "We're Asian."
Yeah.
And she was like, "I'm brown." And I was like, Yes, you are brown, but you're
Yeah.
black and Asian." And so it's like, because she's so young, like that's something that Sherman does a really good job of like instilling. Like she'll say like, "I'm brown." He's like, "Yes, but you're black." And she's like, "I'm not black. I'm brown." And he's like, "Yeah, the color of your skin is maybe lighter." And he's like, "But brown is all sorts of blacks." Like, and she was just like, "I don't understand."
Yeah.
But we do a really good job of like making sure, like when it comes to the food, they be eating it, baby. They tear it up, like they love it. The language is, I think it's difficult because I don't speak Cambodian to them all the time. It's like Spanglish, but with Cambodian. So like there are some words that I say in Khmer, and then there's some, I speak English. So like they know like very, very, very basic things. Like they know how to count to like 10, or like they know like if I say like stop in public, they'll listen, or
Right.
I'll like be quiet or something. But like the language is hard because, in my opinion, when I was growing up, my parents, they spoke Cambodian to me because, that's our primary language at home, but they also tried to learn English. So they like did a little bit of both. And because I am super like, I became very like Western, like I'm super American when it comes to like, and I think it's something about like, you always want what you don't have kind of thing, right? So it's like every night mom would cook rice, and I'd be like, "What about that macaroni and cheese? Like, can I have some of that?" And she'd be like, "No, you better eat this rice and fish." So it's like you always want something that you can't have, right?
Right.
So it's like I became like, I was young, I didn't know better, right? And then, obviously now that I'm an adult, like I'm definitely like more like immersed into my culture, trying to like learn more because, you know, after my parents pass away, like that's I am the only person that has to continue that.
Right.
Like there's nobody else.
Right.
All of my grandparents are dead, and it's
Yeah.
like we are
Yeah. And
the
what does that look like with your
right,
kids?
right. And so I think that, you know, they do a good job of like wanting to learn, but you can never learn enough until you go
Yeah.
to Cambodia, right?
Yeah.
Like once you're there and you see and you feel and you smell and you hear, like living in it, like you really truly immerse
Have you
yourself.
taken your kids to?
No. Nah.
Why you say it like that, dog?
Because it's so expensive.
Oh man.
It's so far.
Man.
Like I got 20,000 kids. So it's like 20,000 times 20,000. I can't afford those plane tickets. That's hella expensive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no. And then it's like there's busy season. So it's like the time we would want to go is obviously during the summer, but that is when it's the most expensive for the tickets. So it's like, and then you can't just go for a week. You're like
Yeah.
traveling for more than 24 hours.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to like really enjoy it. And so,
I think that makes a lot of sense, man. Would you ever want to teach your kids the language
yeah,
in a real way?
in a real way. But I need to learn the language myself. You know what I'm saying? There's levels to it. It's
Why you sound like Aquafina?
Spanish level 1, Spanish level 2. My mom speaks like doctorate level. I'm freshman Spanish 1.
You there though?
Like, right.
Yeah.
And it's more so I understand better than I speak.
Yeah.
And
That's
like
fair.
Cambodian is the most, like, I think it's a very difficult language because one word, there's like 7, like
Tonal,
tape.
very tonal.
Yeah, like it will be like tape, but I'll say it one way. But then there's 27,000 different ways to say this kind of thing.
Is it similar to Vietnamese where it's both? It's not symbol based. It's written, but also tonal. Like how Vietnamese,
Right.
it's not symbols. It's written because
Yeah.
it's heavily influenced
Yes.
by French.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and it's like I asked
I
my
just don't
mom.
know. Yeah.
I asked my mom. I was like, "Teach me the alphabet," and she was like, "Nah, it's too hard." And I was like, "A B C D E F G is hard." She was like, "Nah, it's because it's sound."
Yeah. It's
And she
tonal,
was like,
yeah.
and like she tried. She was like, Sherman and I asked, and she was like, "It's cool, cock." I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was like, "That's really hard. How am I supposed?" Okay, so
Yeah.
because like if she is telling me, an 80-year woman, that learning the alphabet is going to be difficult for me, then because it's difficult for her,
Man.
I'm gonna trust her on that.
It's that full immersion at that point, man.
Right.
Jeez.
And now I think if I went to go and live with Cambodia, where I hear it all day long, no one's speaking English to me,
Yeah.
I'm forced.
Yeah.
you
I
know,
was when I
like-
studied abroad in Italy for 4 months.
right,
I was fluent. I was ordering food in Italian.
right.
I remember when I was in Italy, there was a guy. He was an old Italian man. I was studying in Venice at the
Okay.
time, and I would go get a cup of espresso.
Mhm.
Every I don't know why I did that. That was crazy. That was wild.
That's
Okay, yeah. Let's move on. I would hit this coffee shop, and I remember when I first got there, I sat down, I would typically read my Bible, or I would study.
Yeah.
And then I met this guy, and he walks over and he's like, Barack Obama. And that is how our relationship started. Oh man. It's eventually I was like Mussolini, Machiavelli. That was like our thing. Malcolm X.
I'm screaming. Okay.
So we would just name stereotypical like race, Black or Italian folks that we knew. It was wonderful. But at the end of that trip, we were able to have conversations about politics, about religion, about his life, in Italian. But it was only because I was fully immersed.
So
I don't know any Italian now. I got friends who speak Italian. Yeah.
You don't use it.
Nah.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
Okay. We don't do stereotypical sayings on the show.
That's crazy because I'm full of them. That's crazy.
Hey, yo.